All right, Jamie, thanks a lot. New this morning, civil rights leader, the Rev Jesse Jackson's got some time in Birmingham today. But first, he stopped by to spend some time with us here, your former presidential candidate. Thanks so much for being with us.
Well, good to be here. It's always good to be back. I was here 20 years ago.
20 years.
Mrs. Hope at Winona School invited me here to speak at the unity breakfast.
Yeah.
And I was just here yesterday talking with Mrs. Mabel Carter and Rhonda and Reverend Thomas Lewis.
And we want to talk about that too in just a second, but let's put on your political hat for a second. Yeah, put that hat on. You're a former presidential candidate. We just had the New Hampshire primary yesterday. Big wins for Trump and also for Bernie Sanders. What did you make of the primary yesterday?
Well, first, it was a great interest and great turnout. I thought that Bernie Sanders and Trump are both saying there's tremendous economic anxiety and fear. Trump says because of immigrants and refugees and Muslims, which is highly divisive, driven by fear. And Sanders says because of bank behavior and bank exploitation. So we'll see which one prevails. I hope that this campaign will not get so divisive and ugly. It hurts us. We made so much progress in these last few years in terms of relations. And I think that we must be driven by hope and not by fear.
As we look at some of the video of the campaigning last night or the rallies afterwards from the primary, this was a night that Hillary Clinton really needed to show some momentum. What do you make of how she did, and is she in trouble right now?
Well, the challenge is on as they move towards South Carolina. It will be, for example, the most diverse population of votes. That'll be black, white, Latino votes in South Carolina, unlike the mixture was in Iowa and New Hampshire. So the race is on. I'm glad they're focused on, for example, affordable health care. This state has more than 1 million people in poverty, more white than black. Yet the government refuses to accept affordable health care. The affordable health care plan is twice the size of the state budget. Why don't we just accept it? Because many people live in the rural areas, cannot get to medical access. They don't have transportation. It is a death sentence for them not to have access to health care. And from Virginia around to Texas, we're refusing affordable health care.
I know Hillary Clinton has been running on expanding what the Affordable Care Act is.
Expanding Medicaid.
And expanding Medicaid. But Bernie Sanders, do you think that he can take the nomination from her?
Well, it's too early to say. It's premature, but he has a tremendous bump coming out of Iowa, a very tight race, and last night. And so we'll see how he does in a more diverse population. I'm excited about the campaign. I've chosen to relate to both and to endorse neither.
Okay.
But I'm concerned, for example, that while we're focused on the candidates, the impact of the Shelby case on undermining voting access, that's a big challenge for this campaign, voter access. Growing poverty in our country. Too few have too much, too many who have nothing. Guns in, drugs in, jobs out because of trade policy. These issues are issues of substance that really matter.
They are. And Reverend Jackson, I have to ask you about this. Donald Trump, he has been a big surprise. I don't think anyone expected him to still be around. Do you think he can win the Republican nomination?
He probably will win it. He has the money and the independence and the appeal to Republicans, but much of it is based upon fears, not based upon hope. If we could just watch those Muslims, watch those immigrants, and watch those refugees, we'll be just fine. That's not true. We bail out the banks, not linked to lending, not to reinvestment. The trillions of dollars in offshore tax havens that should be reinvested in America's infrastructure. For example, Flint, Michigan, the collapse of the bridge in Minnesota. And you hear none of these issues of substance having to do with economic reconstruction. People in Flint, for example, must go from water bottles to water pipes to reconstruction. That involves reinvesting in America. These issues are not being discussed as he attacks and counterattacks his opposition.
Well, hopefully we'll see more from the issues. I know a lot has been with Donald Trump, has been his personality, being a TV reality star. But a few minutes left now. Talk about the big Super Tuesday in the South on March 1st, with Alabama being one of the 10 states voting in those primaries. What are you expecting?
If the New South votes its new opportunities, it'll be a very different outcome. When Alabama plays Clemson in the big game, that was made possible by the Civil Rights Movement, because Wallace in Alabama and Strom Thurmond in South Carolina would have made that big game impossible.
Right.
And so as the barriers come down, now you have Toyota and Honda and your tire production in the South, all that stuff, because barriers are down. And so if they come south, this is the biggest region, most people, richest soil, poorest people. I hope they will come in dealing with affordable health care, jobs and wages for working poor people.
come here talking about issues. Reverend Jesse Jackson, we really do appreciate
Well,
you
we're having the
stopping by.
breakfast today, the Unity Breakfast.
The Unity Breakfast,
And
of
we're
course.
on it today.
That's
I want
right.
to thank Mrs. Hope. She has done such a marvelous job across the years.
Right.
Right on from friend Tommy Lewis. Hey, Tommy.
We're glad that Reverend Jesse Jackson could join us. He's a former presidential candidate. There's the information about the Unity Breakfast at Winona High School at 8:30 this morning. And of course, we will have more information on that. Always go to our website if you're looking for it. So Reverend Jesse Jackson, thank you again, sir, for stopping in.
Welcome home, man.
I appreciate it. Appreciate it. Let's go over to Jamie.